UFC Atlanta could have been worse. Could have been better. Could have been worse. Honestly, for a good chunk of that card, it went. This is how it went. Went from unbelievable to, I mean, maybe the most insufferable 4-fight stretch I've ever seen in my life. And then, it started to pick up just a little bit. Then Petrosky and Edmund Shabazian killed. We can go through the whole card. I'll talk about what I liked, what I didn't like, and you're gonna have a lot of complaints out of me for this one for sure. But main event at least delivered. At the bare minimum, we saw Kamaru Usman go full vintage. We'll talk about that in a bit. We're going to go through the full card from bottom to top. You know how it is. Hopefully the quality of my videos have been a little bit better since I've been starting to use OBS. OBS sounds like it's been a bit better. I'm not going to go too far into Demopoulos versus Horth. I mean, no one really cares about this. Horth put on a very good performance overall. Honestly, it was actually a pretty decently fun fight for an opener for what we're used to for the most part. I think Horth looked good on the feet. I think she actually looked like she had some sort of substance in her game as opposed to Demopoulos. Demopoulos is an overhand right merchant who can sometimes throw up an armbar if you are in her guard. If you're not in her guard, then it's about nothing. Actually does a pretty good job getting back to her guard when she's on the mat, but that's all she does. Yeah, just a pretty big beatdown from Jamie Lynn Horth in this fight, where Horth just looked much better. Don't really want to talk about it too much. Not the most boring fight in the world, especially considering what we're about to go over. But Phil Rowe, Angelusa, unbelievable comeback for Phil Rowe. I mean, seriously. He was down on cards 20-18, and all three judges' scorecards. Round one got taken down, basically got sat on the whole round. A little bit of ground and pound from Angelusa on that one. And then you go to what happens in round two, where Phil Rowe starts moving forward, a little bit more urgent overall, pushing the pace, getting Angelusa backed up to the cage. Angelusa gasses towards the latter end of his fights usually. Mainly tries to win those earlier rounds and kind of typically loses round three, so gets put in some trouble round two, gets actually pretty hurt, and then Lusa starts firing back. Phil Rowe gets cracked, and he tries to collar tie him, and as he's trying to collar tie Lusa's right in there in the pocket, still landing those hooks across, and he kept landing on Rowe. Rowe got dropped at the end of round two, like he blew that round two right at the end there, and it was an unbelievable fight at that moment. Like, really great start to this card. Then round three, Phil Rowe does the same thing he did in round two. Put that pressure, made Angelusa uncomfortable, put him towards the cage. And then you had Phil Rowe hurting Angelusa bad. Grabbed him on one side, kind of like a collar tie towards the cage. Had him with his left hand like this. And then it might look differently. I don't know if the camera's flipped on this. It had him with his left hand like this. And then started right hooking him just repeatedly. And Lusa's face looked disheveled, looked completely gone. He didn't look like he was awake. He looked like he was completely out on his feet, miserable. Mouthpiece was out. It was scary. It was honestly scary for Lusa. But then right off of that, Lusa falls down. This is the last minute of the fight. Lusa falls down as he breaks off that position. Fetal position. Fight gets stopped. Phil Rowe, last minute comeback knockout against Angelusa, where he was literally down 20-18 on all three judges' scorecards, and the way he dropped round two honestly sucked for him, and you could feel bad for him the way it happened. But yeah, the really, really good overall performance from Phil Rowe in that great comeback win. So now we have Cam Smotherman against Ricky Simone, where Smotherman looked outmatched in this fight as people anticipated, especially watching his Surrey City performance. Had an okay round three. He seems like a decent fighter overall that has a couple holes in his game he needs to address and just didn't have the time, especially between Surrey City and then going on to fight Ricky Simone. So Ricky Simone did pretty well in this fight. Little weird moment where Ricky Simone had him against the cage and he told him that he's under arrest, and Smotherman considered that racist. And I mean, I can understand the perspective of that, but little trash talk from Simone just because he had him pinned down against the cage. Don't think there was any ill intent, but I don't know the guy, so it is what it is. So weird fight overall. Pretty good overall clinic, and not a wrestling clinic rather, from Ricky Simone in the first two rounds. Now, obviously, not really the most high output fight in the world. And then I think Smotherman took round three, if I'm not wrong. I don't remember. I think he got taken down, barely really controlled in that round, and then landed for the majority of the part much better strikes. But good card overall, a good fight overall, not the worst of it, honestly, considering again what we're about to see in this card. A couple fights from here. Jose Ochoa, unbelievable performance. What a fight, by the way. Was piecing Durden up early in the fight and was doing fantastic. They got into a little bit of a brawl after Durden got hurt. Durden cracked Ochoa and got on top of him. And Ochoa was never really too, like he wasn't lazy on the mat when he was down there. It was a lot more difficult, making it a little bit more difficult on Durden to deal with anything. And then now Durden, all of a sudden in round two, a lot more energetic, a lot more confident, stuff like that. Obviously, with how round one ended, even though he was getting pieced up, he gave Ochoa a fight, and he hurt Ochoa, took him down a couple times as well. So very, very honestly good first round ending for Durden, and then directly into the second round. I mean directly, as they meet in the middle right at the start of round 2, where Durden was laughing and smiling, hyping up the crowd, looking at Ochoa and laughing in his face. Slick uppercut, slick sharp left uppercut, hits Durden, clips him right on the chin, and he starts stumbling backwards. He is hurt. But it's the finishing sequence from Ochoa where he lands a nasty left hook, clean and flush on the chin of Durden, and Durden goes down, and that's all it was. So Ochoa knocks out Cody Durden right at the beginning of round 2. You could literally see 11 seconds into round 2. Unbelievable performance from Jose Ochoa. And the guy's legit. You watch that Loner Kavanaugh performance. Yes, it's a different fight. And then the Kavanaugh fight where Durden's going to implement the grappling a little bit more. But Kavanaugh can grapple himself. We watched it in the Felipe Dos Santos fight. Yeah, really good short notice performance for him against Kavanaugh, where he still lost. And again, Loner Kavanaugh, one of the best prospects in the UFC. Right now, my favorite prospect in the UFC. In my opinion, the best prospect in the UFC. And Jose Ochoa looking like that against him was pretty good overall. Why I moved quickly before, and I'm still talking about the fight, I don't know. This was the beating of a lifetime. This was the worst matchmaking showcase in the UFC could put on. This is actually a very big representation of how bad the UFC is with the control they have over their fighters. These are people that are signed under their promotion that are all saying no to fight a contender, to fight a guy, not a contender, a prospect, a guy who has a little bit of hype behind him. And Malcolm Wellmaker entering this fight after what he did to Cameron Simon, by the way, who isn't the easiest fight in the world to give to somebody on their debut. And Malcolm Wellmaker put him out with an insane check left hook, which is his shot. He is a hook specialist at this point, essentially, where he's a fantastic counter right, fantastic counter left, whichever way he's standing with his stance. He could smoke somebody. He could smoke somebody with those counter hooks. So Wallmaker actually puts in a step-in hook on Chris Moutinho here and just knocks him blatantly out cold. It was insane. Really, really cracking shot. I know Moutinho is known for durability, but I think a lot of people just lack to consider the fact that Sean O'Malley took every bit of that durability out of Moutinho, and literally the fight right after, Guido Canetti knocked him out, I think, in the first round. Yeah, Moutinho's durability has not been the same since Sean O'Malley, and that's all he had really to him. He was a zombie. He was a zombie against O'Malley. Was starting to be a zombie, honestly, in this fight. Honestly, Wallmaker didn't look that great. Wallmaker was winding up a lot of shots. Didn't seem like he had much set up to his game. If you watch his Contender Series fight and you watch his fight against Cam Simon, he's getting landed on quite a bit. The striking defense isn't the greatest. He got landed on quite a bit against Moutinho. Now, I can consider that he was winding up just a little bit more in this fight because he knew Moutinho didn't really threaten him too much. And then when he started getting hit, he started, getting himself back together, setting it up a little bit more. And to be fair, a step-in, wound-up right hook, the one that landed on Moutinho, like pure power shot that Moutinho probably saw and just ended up getting clipped by, and he really just couldn't take the power. I don't know. I think Wallmaker is a potential star in the making, but he's 31 years old, and his hardware isn't the greatest. He really isn't like some technical mastermind. He's not really some defensive mastermind either. Like, the grappling is still untested. We haven't really seen him use it as much. Honestly, from what I've watched in tape before, not really anything prominent. Yeah, I don't think... I think he has insane power, and I think that's what Malcolm Wellmaker is. Okay, yeah, that's what I think Malcolm Wellmaker is. I think he's an insane power shot guy, and that's essentially it. I'm calling my shot on it right now. I don't think he's a top contender, although he could definitely make his way through certain fights. With that power, he really can. I mean, you land that shot, you land that check hook, and that's what he uses. He could definitely crack some people, but again, the higher level guys you fight, you might beat one by cracking them, you might catch them. But apart from that, what's going to happen for him? I think he's going to get outclassed much sooner than later. But good for him, honestly. He's a very, very fun prospect overall. I cannot wait to keep watching him because how would you not want to watch a Malcolm Wellmaker fight at this point? The guy is essentially starting to make... Anytime you see his name, next fight announcement, it's going to be a big fight announcement, no matter who it's against. Michael Chiesa versus Court McGee. This is where the downfall of the card begins. This is where I called a very fun old man grappling match with loads of scrambles and a much more entertaining fight than what we got, and it was barely any takedown attempts. I mean, 6 from McGee, but they were very, very lackluster attempts. And Michael Chiesa only shooting 2 times. If Michael Chiesa is only shooting 2 times, I mean, Michael Chiesa is coming in to strike. Do I really need to further that motion? I mean, come on. This fight sucked. This fight was horrible. It was slow. It was boring. It wasn't the highest output in the world. It looked like they're throwing a decent amount of strikes, 169, 158. Not the worst in the world, obviously, right? No, it sucked. It was very, very, very lackluster from both guys. It was slow. It looked like two old guys striking, and that's exactly what it ended up being. And oh, that was painful. That was very painful to watch. And it's not just like, okay, a bad fight. It's what it started out. I mean, Rodolfo Bellato versus Paul Craig. First of all, Bellato pulls out last second because of herpes in the first fight. And then directly right after that, Bellato ends up fighting Paul Craig on the prelims. Thank God this wasn't a co-main event the first time. He ends up fighting on the feature prelim rather, against Paul Craig, where Craig actually didn't look horrible in the first round. He didn't. I think Craig was actually winning in the beginning of the first, for the majority of the first round, honestly. And Bellato was like getting Craig exactly where he wanted him, and he wouldn't really extend his combinations to where Craig backs up linearly and in a straight line where Craig's wide open as he usually is. It's the same Paul Craig fight, right? But Craig actually attempted double legs. He attempted takedown. He didn't get any of them, but he was actually shooting. Like actual substance behind his takedowns. They weren't like horrible entries. They weren't like just guard pulls or anything like that. It's like something you haven't seen in Paul Craig in a fat minute. And he was actually trying to wrestle. Didn't get anything. Fine, whatever. And Bellato actually looked pretty good overall, apart from the fact that he wasn't really throwing when he should have. Didn't really look like he was there mentally. And then obviously the big part where the Bellato's landing some ground and pound on Paul Craig. Pretty emphatic end to the round. And then he has a knee down. Paul Craig throws an up kick. Partially lands. Very, very, very minutely lands. Like a skid. When you're looking at it, it doesn't look like it fully landed, right? Then Bellato looks at the ref as he falls down. In like protest. No, illegal up kick. There should be a DQ, whatever, right? And then, like, within that split second, falls down and falls asleep. Now, it looks like he faked it, right? It looks like instantly he faked it. And where he's looking at the ref, then immediately goes out cold, has his head bounce off the canvas like that. And then he, like, wakes up jittery, shockingly. I watched, like, the head bouncing off the canvas a little bit. I tried to find something off of it. Maybe, like, the skid of the foot hitting him at the power Paul Craig's upkick was going at, which, again, I think upkicks should be legal, but they're not. Like, that, like right now, it's objectively not. I made a whole video on TikTok. I posted on YouTube Shorts of which MMA strikes that are illegal should be legal. I do think an upkick to an opponent that's down should be legal. I think you cannot be safe just sitting on top of an opponent like that. No, it's ridiculous. They should be able to defend themselves. An upkick should be defending yourself. That's fine. You want to play that game and posture up against a guy like that, they can upkick you in the face. It's as simple as that. Defend yourself. As much as they got to defend themselves from you being on top of them, you got to defend yourself from being on top of them as well. So, illegal upkick, yes. Partially lands, and it did partially land. It didn't, like, not land at all, but it wasn't flush. And then there was, like, that insane delayed reaction from Rodolfo Bellato where it, like, a lot of people thought it was fake. I don't know. The shaking that was there, the constant attack at the ref, it looked weird. His eyes honestly looked completely gone. I mean, completely gone. That's honestly where I derive most of it, where the shaking and the way the eyes looked. Like, unless he's an all-world actor. I mean, all-world actor. This is not a horrible Aljamain Sterling performance against Peter Yan. No, the Aljamain Sterling performance against Peter Yan was complete garbage. That was a horrible acting performance. To be fair, Aljo got hit harder than I think Bellato did, to be honest. Could be the mix of, I don't know, the herpes in this. I don't know exactly what's going on with Bellato. If there is some sort of traumatic brain injury that he dealt with, it should have been a disqualification nonetheless. No matter what, it should have been a disqualification. If you thought he faked it, you thought he didn't. I personally don't think he did. If you look at the way his eyes were looking and the way he was looking at the ref, how wide-eyed he was, how dilated his pupils were, it looked bad. It honestly looked bad. Not the kick itself, but the reaction that his brain had to whatever damage it had taken in that moment. That's a DQ. It's not a no contest. It's an illegal strike thrown regardless of what the intent was. Which, first of all, he meant to throw the strike. He didn't know whether the guy was on his knees or not. It doesn't matter. It's an illegal strike. Plain and simple. You do not call that a no contest. And it's even funnier when we get into what happens later, but it's so inconsistent with the UFC. Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling was called a disqualification where a title change happened in favor of the guy that obviously got kneed, but was losing the fight handedly. I mean, was getting BTA, you know how it goes, right? But then we get a week later where Eric Andrews, if you guys remember, and I think it was an Apex card right after Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling, where Eric Andrews knees Darren Stewart in the head on the floor. It was illegal, and they called it a no contest. And now we're getting this, which was a blatant illegal upkick, intentional or not. You do not call that a no contest. This should have been a disqualification. Crazy though, legitimately insane. Was a weird fight for the most part, but honestly killed any sort of, entertainment that it could have had. And we'll get into what happened with the other no contest or illegal strike type thing, right? Umar Sy versus Alonzo Menifield. I don't want to talk about this fight. The only part I want to talk about is Umar Sy lost round 1 trying to have a slow-paced striking fight. He then wins round 2 by straight up attempting to wrestle Alonzo Menifield the whole fight. Trying to grapple him, trying to shoot in double legs, trying to shoot in single legs, chain them. And honestly, for somebody who enjoys watching grappling, I enjoyed those sequences as boring as it looked. And I know you're going to call me a mark or whatever it is. Listen, Umar Sy had Alonzo Menifield against the cage. He went for a single leg. He would switch to a double leg because he couldn't get the single leg. He tried to lock his hands. Menifield spread his legs wide, pause, to be able to defend the takedown, right? To be able to defend the double leg. Umar Sy then tries to go a high crotch. It doesn't work. He tries to switch off the double leg, goes back into the double leg. The constant motion of his hands trying to get in this takedown, it was active seeking of a takedown, and I like watching that because that's grappling. That's an attempt. Now, Menifield did not know what to do to get off the cage. He did not know what to do to separate. He only knew how to defend the takedowns. And then eventually, Umar Sy got a single leg where he held onto it, then used a trip to get Menifield down. That was his 1 of 5 takedowns that he had. And he ended up actually getting some good position off of it, onto the back, whatever it is, of Menifield. And he won round 2 of just relentless control and grappling over like 4 minutes of control at the time. But then we get this like fantastic ideology from Umar Sy, his corner, and himself. It's like in round 3 where I lost round 1 in a slow striking fight. I won round 2 in a heavily attempted grappling performance. And then in round 3, what am I going to do? Between the experience I've had in each round and looking at how I won or lost each of those rounds, what am I going to do? Yeah, I'm going to go back to the slow striking fight that I had in round 1 where I lost very blatantly because I did nothing on the feet and Menifield landed a couple bigger shots. And that's exactly what happened in round 3. Umar Sy did not want to wrestle, did not pressure Menifield to the cage and try to constantly shoot takedowns early. He shot one a little bit later in round 3 towards the end, got caught as he entered, and this was like 40 seconds left in the round. One of the dumbest performances I've seen in God knows how long. I don't know what was going on in his corner. I don't know what he was thinking. It was horrible. It was legitimately a garbage performance. And round 3 was the highlight of horrible fight IQ from a corner, horrible execution from a fighter, horrible fight IQ from a fighter. As bad as it gets, if you want to watch a horrible performance, watch rounds 1 and 2 of Umar Sy versus Alonzo Menifield. Then watch what Umar Sy does in round 3. And the best part about it is that round 2 is the round he won. It was the most recent round that he had information from. And yet he still goes back to round 1 where he lost. I don't get it. I genuinely do not get it. Both fighters looked horrible. Move on. It's a learning experience for a younger fighter, I guess. But for the love of God, that was horrible. Cody Brundage versus Mansour Abdulmalik. We thought this was going to be a car crash. We thought this was going to be insane. We thought this was going to be very, very entertaining. We thought this was going to be something where we're going to have a sick, sick fight. But the problem between this, the problem with this fight was we literally got none of that. In rounds 1 and round 2, it was a soul striking fight between both guys. We got such a dead fight between the two. And then we had round 3 where we got some excitement. It was explosions. They were going crazy for 30 seconds. And then Cody Brundage got dropped early, right? He got dropped early in round 3, and then he went down, and then he actually recovered. He actually fought right back off. Cody Brundage is now a dog all of a sudden, right? And he's gotten dropped in his last 2 fights several times, and he got right back up and started slugging against Mansour Abdulmalik. And finally, after a stretch of just garbage fights, we got something decent. Even after those horrible 2 rounds, we got something decent, and it was such a fresh... Like, it was just pumping through the veins of violence, or substance. It was just not a staring contest, finally. And then Mansour Abdulmalik throws a body knee, leads with a body knee, misses it, partially lands it, and then you just see Brundage go down, holding his head, 2 hands over his head, fetal position, just like in a cradle position on the ground, just like this, right? And just defending himself, and then the fight gets finished, per se, right? First of all, Brundage outstruck Malik in rounds 1 and 2. Some damage from Malik, sure, but like it's weird the way this decision was made. It was a headbutt. Brundage went down to a headbutt. It was an incidental headbutt from Malik, to Brundage, right? And so Brundage got dropped because of the headbutt. you would think, right? No contest because it's an illegal headbutt. No. Let's go to a technical decision. So we got Mansour Abdul Malik, where it should have been a no contest, and they went to a technical decision, and the guy who illegally headbutted Cody Brundage got the win, unintentionally, but illegally, nonetheless illegal. But that's much different than an upkick from Paul Craig against Rodolfo Bellato, where that should have been disqualification, but given a no contest. This should have been a no contest, and it was a technical decision given to Mansour Abdul Malik. There is a massive downfall for the UFC happening right now, and this card could not have represented how bad UFC is in 2025 more. It was so, I mean, it started off fantastic. It looked like it was great. Face value at that point was gorgeous, considering the fights we had coming up after the first five, and we had great fights in the first five fights. Beautiful. We then get into just a complete mess in these last four fights, right, within these four fights that I've just gone over. Horrible decision for this not being a no contest. I don't get it. Now, Cody Garbrandt actually looked good in round one. He looked fun. He looked entertaining. He looked quick. He dropped Ronnie Barcelos. It was a fun, and I mean a very fun first round. He taunted Barcelos after he dropped him. Embarrassing for him because he just lost the fight at the end there. I thought round two was very clear Ronnie Barcelos. Round one was very clear Cody Garbrandt. And round three, Barcelos. The thing is, Barcelos did the same thing in round two as he did in round three. The same thing Cody Garbrandt allowed him to do in round two and round three. Garbrandt in round one was exploding, kind of leading with his head a little bit often, but Barcelos is a little bit too old, a little bit too slow to counter him on those situations. And anytime Garbrandt would burst, he'd leave himself wide open, but Barcelos wouldn't really counter him as often. And he'd land a good amount on Barcelos. He'd land some pretty big shots on him, in which he dropped him in round one. I believe if they count a knockdown, well, they didn't count a knockdown. I guess it counted as a slip. It looked like he dropped him. And what's interesting is Garbrandt just completely abandoned that in round two and round three. He kept letting Barcelos lead. He kept not only moving forward, Barcelos was moving forward the whole fight, but Garbrandt would lead in the first round, and it just seemed like Garbrandt gassed. It looked like he gassed in round two and three, especially round three, and he got hurt bad at the end of round two. Barcelos clearly took that round. I honestly, Cody Garbrandt looked okay in the beginning, and but it's not really anything special. Like, he looked very, very telegraphed. He looked very, very explosive and quick, but his head was wide open every single time he'd enter. I mean, he'd lead with his head on these bursts of combinations where no jab to set it up, nothing really to set up any of these combos, and I guess Barcelos ended up figuring that out and moved forward, and honestly, Cody just didn't do anything in rounds two and three to mitigate that pressure of Barcelos, and Barcelos landed some better shots, got Cody down. Actually, Cody got very complacent in round three, which led to him being like this turtled position, where in the fetal position basically, and then Ronnie Barcelos had like a decent grappling position, but then he rotated to the back very quickly, very explosively, and that's mainly because of Cody's reluctance to do anything in the position. He was basically sitting down in that fetal position, and yeah, he ended up getting Cody Garbrandt, losing this fight 29-28 pretty clearly. I mean, relatively close round three in round two, but like he got dropped at the end of round two, and I don't know. It was a fun end of round three where he defended the takedowns, got up, reversed the position on Barcelos, and he started hyping up the crowd and didn't really throw anything after that. Crowd went explosive, and Cody actually landed a couple combinations, then actually hyped up the crowd real quick with the last minute. Looked at the clock, you thought he was going to do something. But anyways, it was fun seeing him have like some fun, right? Cody was always going to be a fun fighter no matter what, especially when someone brings it to him. And we had a little bit of those vintage brawls from him in there. And his chin actually looked pretty decent. I know he didn't love taking the shots, the way he reacted with them, but honestly, for what we've seen in Cody Garbrandt, I've been mentioning this. He hasn't been knocked out at 135 pounds. And again, it's 40-year-old Ronnie Barcelos nonetheless, but he hasn't been knocked out at 135 pounds in over 6 years. He got knocked out by Kai Kara France at 125. Horrible decision for him to cut down. But against Ronnie Barcelos, he had some pretty big shots nonetheless. Anyways, Edmund Shahbazyan versus Andre Petroski. Shame on both of them. Shame on Petroski for the most part, because Petroski decided to not wrestle in a fight where he knew a guy that he was fighting, where Edmund Shahbazyan doesn't deal well with pressure. Not the greatest of cardio overall when pressure's put on him, especially when he's on his back foot. So and Edmund Shahbazyan isn't really the best wrestler. Now, Shahbazyan at 27 years old, and crazy, by the way, when I was watching this, and I was like, he's still 27? That's insane. I mean, you start seeing guys start to develop into themselves at 27, 28, 29 years old. Now, Shahbazyan was getting clipped by some pretty big shots from Petroski at times, and again, I don't think Shahbazyan really improved tremendously. However, his takedown defense has improved a little bit. Sprawls have improved a little bit. His ability to scramble off of it, especially, pretty good. But it was mainly because Petroski wasn't setting up anything. Petroski was just leaving himself wide open the whole time on the strike. He wanted to strike with Shabazian, and the worst part about it is he's the wrestler with the better cardio, with the much better jiu-jitsu, much better grappling overall, much better top time upside, much better pressure and against the guy who cannot really wrestle and cannot really grapple and doesn't really have any cardio when you're grappling him and pressuring him. And he just lets Shabazian walk on the front foot the whole fight. He doesn't put any pressure on Shabazian. He walks backwards a majority of this fight, moving honestly pointlessly from back and forth as he's moving backwards. He doesn't really have anything he's setting up, and Petroski looked embarrassing in this fight. Yeah, I think Petroski needed a big reality check from the people he was the people he's training with. I mean, Pat Sabatini does not fight like this. Sean Brady does not fight like. He looked like Joe Pyfer. He looked like as boring and dumb as Joe Pyfer looked in the Kelvin Gastelum fight, except Joe Pyfer actually hurt Gastelum in round 1. This looked like round 2, round 3 Joe Pyfer. A whole lot of nothing. He'd shoot one takedown and be completely cooked off of that takedown. I mean, he refused to shoot another takedown after failing one, right? Even the one times he got Shabazian down, I mean, he wouldn't really establish position. This is not how Petroski usually fights. It is what it is. He looked horrible, looked embarrassing, and honestly, just not a fighter you could trust to win a fight at this point, even against a very gifted stylistic matchup. Anyways, Rose Namajunas versus Miranda Maverick. Now, finally, a fight where there was some substance, some sort of engagement, some sort of entertainment. And now, I know this is going to sound a little bit crazy, but I thought Miranda Maverick had a pretty good case to win the fight. I thought Miranda Maverick won round 1 clearly. I thought she landed the bigger shots. The left hand was landing free. I know Rose landed a couple good shots as well. It was a very competitive round 1. I wonder what the official stats actually have it as. So Miranda did outstrike her both regularly and significantly. And in my opinion, knockdown in round 1. Was that really a thing? I don't think Rose Namajunas got a knockdown in round 1. I know she got one in round 3. I don't recall in round 1. I think that's, that she doesn't have like the red thing. So that was just an accident. I don't know why they have that there. But yeah, she had a knockdown in round 3. Round 1 was clear Miranda Maverick, in my opinion. Round 2 was Rose Namajunas for the most part. But she got outstruck big, especially towards the end there. Miranda Maverick reversed the position that Rose gave her. And then the biggest part of that round, right, was like Rose took her down a couple times. Weird that Miranda Maverick wasn't wrestling in this fight. Because Miranda was honestly the much better wrestler, the much better grappler. And especially when she reversed the position on Rose, she instantly got into an arm triangle position. I think she was trying to get the back for a rear naked choke. Rose ended up scrambling pretty well. Almost got into half guard, but Miranda was like halfway out of the half guard with an arm triangle on the correct side, and she had a deep arm triangle, got to the side, and Rose actually did a fantastic job getting right out of that position and giving up her back, and she defended it pretty well. But then you had Miranda Maverick instantly take the back of Namajunas with like 10 seconds to go and was hammer fisting her heavy, and she was landing some big shots. She not only outstruck Rose Namajunas in that round, she landed the more damage in that round. She had the closest to finishing that fight in that round as well. She almost finished Rose Namajunas with that arm triangle, and you need to be able to score that. I thought she won round 2. I thought she landed the better shots overall. I thought she landed the more significant shots overall, even though it says 5 significant strikes. Go watch the end of that round. She closed the round off better. Again, yes, Rose had more top time, had more control, had 2 takedowns, but didn't really do any damage with those. And then Miranda obviously had the closest to finishing that round. I think this was a bad decision. Rose obviously won round 3. She knocked down Miranda Maverick. Very, very clear round 3 for Rose. So not only do I think Miranda Maverick won rounds 1 and 2, and I think there's a very, I honestly, if you rewatch that fight and you go look at what happened in that fight, I'd be very, very confused with what you're scoring if you gave Rose Namajunas those first 2 rounds. The worst part about it is that 2 judges gave Rose 30-27. How? What substance did you have in round 2 that Rose had apart from top time that gave her that round? She almost got finished by an arm triangle. She got ground and pounded heavy right after that. Heavy shots. And she did nothing but lay on it for that round. She got outstruck overall, 22-9. Same significant strike count, but look at the more damaging strikes that Miranda landed. Come on. Where is this damage predecessor? Where is the damage predecessor on scoring? Where's the predominant damage basis on scoring? And then on top of it, the sub attempt. Literally had her deep in an arm triangle, in the position you'd finish an arm triangle, past the guard, not even in mount, past the half guard, and she's in perfect position to finish it. And Rose defended it great. I think it was a horribly scored fight. I think Miranda Maverick clearly won the fight rounds 1 and 2. It's what it is. We move forward. Joaquin Buckley versus Kamaru Usman. Joaquin Buckley just learned takedown offense as this fight went on towards the end, but this was dominant from start to through the fourth round. For Kamaru Usman, unbelievable performance. Vintage Kamaru Usman. And it's not only vintage. Kamaru Usman was shooting open mat takedowns, exploding, timing them, catching Buckley, circling, and getting his double legs. I mean, he looked great. He looked great. He looked way back. I mean, oh my, first of all, huge. Kamaru Usman is massive. This guy is a specimen at 170 pounds. I know Buckley isn't the tallest for 170, but the guy's a big dude. The Usman made him look small, man. I mean, on the feet, Buckley was landing much better shots overall, landing very, very big shots on Usman. Clearly won round 5. I don't know what judge gave Buckley 2 rounds. By the way, that was atrocious. I think Kamaru Usman looked fantastic in this fight. He's going to fight the winner of Jack Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev. If Jack wins, Makhachev is not defending that title. Yeah, Usman looked fantastic with the wrestling. Obviously, his top pressure is second to none at welterweight, in my opinion. I mean, you could put him and Sean Brady neck and neck with top pressure, right? I mean, anytime Buckley was getting up, he'd make sure he had his legs. He'd make sure he had that double leg, make sure he got the position he wanted to sit in to make sure he has Buckley in a position where he can't get up. He has the legs controlled, or he has... When Buckley is against the cage, as he's moving up and trying to back up, Usman kind of postured up over him on the cage, making sure that he had every bit of pressure to make sure that Buckley could not get up. And when Buckley got taken down, he really couldn't get up for the most part. And I think towards the latter end of it, he started getting up a little bit. I think like round 4, I think he got up. I don't remember which round it was, round 3 or round 4. And in round 5, obviously, he defended, I think, every single takedown that Usman gave him. I think Usman shot 6 times, and Buckley defended every single one of them, landed much bigger shots, landed some massive shots. Usman's chin actually held up very, very well. Usually you see him getting rocked by some of the shots he got landed on, and he just looked locked in. He was ready to take a lot of damage. He was ready to get hit by Buckley, and he ate some shots against him, and all credit to Usman in this fight. I mean, unbelievable performance. He's going to get a title shot, although I don't think he deserves it after being 0-3 in his last 3, beating Buckley. But nonetheless, you know, he's going to jump Sean Brady. Sean Brady gets screwed after beating Leon Edwards and dominating him, where Kamaru Usman looked like a shell of himself against Leon Edwards in the 3rd fight. Is what it is. I think it was honestly, this co-main and main event gave us something to actually like be okay with this card after an unbelievable start and just a disgusting bulk in the middle of it, right? And Kamaru Usman, fantastic performance. I didn't mind this card whatsoever for the most part. I was happy with it. I was fine, and it's just there was once I started my live stream in the Chiesa fight and we had it go through, it just died down. It died down completely. Thank God we have UFC Baku next. UFC Baku is going to be entertaining. Thank you guys all for watching this recap. If you guys like these videos, like my YouTube channel, please subscribe. Follow me on TikTok at MMA_DBM, where I go live every single day for an hour. I post on TikTok every single day as well. I'll give you guys loads of UFC content on there, so you get daily YouTube content, but also daily TikTok content, short form and long form over here. Appreciate everybody for watching. I'll have my predictions out tomorrow. Obviously tomorrow's video, every Monday is going to be the predictions video for that upcoming card. So UFC Baku predictions tomorrow. See you guys then, hopefully. Thank you guys all for watching. Peace out. Oh, I'm used to recording on NVIDIA. So what I just did is I clicked record on NVIDIA, and instead I have OBS and I have to click this button. See you guys.